There is a war going on in your backyard, and almost nobody notices it. Not a war between predator and prey, not a war between species fighting over the same nest box or the same patch of lawn. This is quieter than that, and in some ways stranger. It is a rivalry built entirely on color, on territory, on the invisible lines two birds draw across the same stretch of sky without ever needing to touch. The red cardinal at your feeder and the white swan on the pond down the road have almost nothing in common. One weighs less than 2 ounces, the other can weigh more than 20 pounds. One eats sunflower seeds from your hand, the other could break bones with a single wing strike. And yet, if you look closely enough, both of them are running the exact same program, defending territory with a ferocity that has nothing to do with size and everything to do with instinct. Red against white, small against large, two completely different strategies for the same ancient problem. How do you hold on to a piece of ground that everything else wants too? Welcome back to Backyard Bird Mind. If you have ever watched a cardinal chase off a bird twice its size, or seen a swan turn from graceful to genuinely terrifying in half a second, you have already seen a piece of this rivalry play out. Subscribe now because today we are breaking down exactly how these two birds fight for territory, what triggers the aggression, and which one, when it actually comes down to it, is more dangerous. Stay until the end because the answer is not what most people expect. Number 1. The color that starts the fight. Cardinal aggression is triggered almost entirely by the color red itself. This has been tested directly. Ornithologists have documented male cardinals attacking their own reflection in windows, car mirrors, and reflective siding for weeks at a time, not because they are confused about what a mirror is, but because the red shape triggers an immediate territorial response regardless of context. The bird is not thinking. It is reacting to a signal it has been wired to respond to for its entire life. Red equals rival. Rival equals attack. Swans respond to a completely different trigger, and it is almost the opposite of subtle. It is not color, it is posture. A swan defending territory arches its neck into an S shape, raises its wings into what researchers call the busking display, and glides toward the intruder in a way that looks almost theatrical, a warning broadcast at maximum visibility. Where the cardinal's aggression is a reflex to a specific color, the swan's aggression is a performance, a deliberate escalation designed to be seen from as far away as possible before a single feather is touched. Number 2. How far the territory actually extends. A cardinal's territory is surprisingly small and surprisingly fixed. During breeding season, a male cardinal will defend an area often no larger than 2 to 10 acres, but within that space, the boundaries are treated as absolute. Cross the invisible line, and the resident male will chase, dive, and physically strike an intruding male cardinal, sometimes drawing blood, sometimes locking together in mid-air combat that ends with both birds falling toward the ground, still grappling. A swan's territory operates on a completely different scale of intensity. A breeding pair of swans may defend an entire pond, an entire stretch of river, sometimes more than a mile of shoreline, and they defend all of it with the same intensity a cardinal reserves for a single tree. Wildlife authorities in parks with resident swans issue seasonal warnings for exactly this reason. A nesting swan does not treat a human on a bicycle, a dog on a leash, or another water bird any differently. All of them are treated as the same category of threat, and all of them can be charged with the same explosive speed. Number 3. What the aggression actually costs. Cardinal fights, for all their intensity, are rarely lethal. The birds are evenly matched in size and weaponry, and most confrontations end with the intruder retreating, sometimes missing a few feathers, occasionally injured, but alive. The fight is more about establishing dominance than eliminating a rival. Swan aggression operates in a different category entirely. There are documented cases, not rumors, documented cases of swans drowning smaller birds, geese, ducks, even other swans, by holding them underwater during territorial disputes. A swan's wing strike, delivered at full force against a human arm, has been recorded causing fractures. This is not exaggeration for dramatic effect. It is the reason wildlife services in the UK, the US, and elsewhere post physical warning signs near nesting swans every single spring. Something that has never once been necessary for a cardinal. Number 4. Who actually starts more fights? This is where the comparison gets counterintuitive. Despite the far greater physical danger a swan represents, cardinals initiate territorial conflict far more frequently. A male cardinal may engage in dozens of boundary disputes across a single breeding season, chasing off intruders almost daily during peak territoriality in spring. The threshold for triggering a cardinal's aggression is low, and the frequency of confrontation is high. Swans, despite their capacity for serious violence, are comparatively selective about when they escalate. Most encounters near a swan's territory resolve through the busking display alone. Wings raised, neck arched, a slow, deliberate approach that causes most potential threats to simply leave before any contact occurs. The swan's aggression is rarer, but each instance carries far higher stakes. It is the difference between a fighter who throws frequent light jabs and one who rarely swings but hits hard enough to end things when it finally does. Number 5. The reason this rivalry exists at all. Underneath both of these behaviors is the same evolutionary logic, applied at two completely different scales. For the cardinal, a tiny songbird with limited resources and a short lifespan, aggressive, frequent, low-cost defense of a small territory maximizes the chance of successfully raising young in a single breeding season. Speed and frequency of response matter more than the size of the fight. For the swan, a large, long-lived bird that may return to the exact same nesting site for a decade or more, the calculation is different. A swan invests enormous energy into a single nest, a single clutch of eggs, across a season, and that investment is concentrated and irreplaceable if lost. The response, then, is calibrated not for frequency but for finality. An aggression severe enough that almost nothing tests the boundary twice. Number 6. So, which one actually wins the title of your yard's fiercest resident? If the measure is sheer physical danger, the swan wins without question. Pound for pound, and especially in absolute terms, a swan defending its nest is capable of inflicting real, sometimes serious harm, and does not hesitate when it decides a threat is real. But if the measure is who fights more, who holds ground more relentlessly, who treats nearly every rival as an immediate and personal threat worth confronting, the cardinal is the more aggressive animal by a wide margin, ounce for ounce, the more combative bird in your yard. Red and white, small and large, frequent conflict and rare but devastating conflict. Two completely different solutions to the same ancient problem, both playing out within a few hundred feet of where you are sitting right now, most of it happening in plain sight, and almost none of it noticed for what it actually is. Tell me in the comments, have you ever seen a cardinal attack its own reflection, or gotten too close to a nesting swan and found out the hard way what busking looks like up close? I read every single one. See you in the next video.